how did you initially get connected with From Ashes to New, and what was the transition like going from Trivium to From Ashes to New?
So I'll start with the connection for From Ashes to New. So I saw a post from a producer that we've worked with now multiple times, Grant McFarland. So I knew of his old band. He used to be in a band called This Is the Apocalypse. It was a Lancaster-based band. Kind of grew up with August Burns Red, Texas in July, This Is the Apocalypse. So I used to go to a lot of those shows. So I'm from the Chester County, Pennsylvania area. So I grew up close to where the band's based out of in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, but Matt and I never met before. We've been in multiple shows or just events around the areas together. We never really crossed paths. At that time, I wasn't really able to do music. I was trying to put some bands together and things like that, but I would go out to shows and I was very inspired by all of it. But just in my area, I just didn't have the connections and I wasn't able to really drive or anything like that. And I knew the Lancaster scene was more booming, but I wasn't able to get down there. So I focused on this whole world that was going on in the Lancaster, Pennsylvania area and the tri-state region of music. And I became friends with Grant, went to a bunch of the shows, talked to him a bunch, we're Facebook friends. So 2016, early 2016, I see a post that he says, internationally touring band, looking for a fill-in drummer for a CD release tour, hit me up with details, send videos, whatever. This was right after I got out of Trivium. I was done with Trivium in 2015, the end of 2015. I missed one show. So I basically consider 2016 is when I started, the departure process, whatever was going on. And I saw this post and I hit him up and I said, hey, man, I'm available. If it's for somebody in this area, where's it at? And he said, it's Lancaster, Pennsylvania based. And I was like, cool. I live 45 minutes away. I'm east, I'm closer to Philly than Lancaster. And I was like, I played in Trivium because we didn't really keep in touch like that. But I was like, I have played in Trivium. I'm sure there's YouTube videos. I just don't have personalized videos. I felt like the name itself kind of like represented, because I knew that this band, it was for From Ashes, wasn't at the level yet of where Trivium was. So I wasn't, feeling like that name itself was like, okay, he's in the runnings for it. So he's like, send me these videos, send me all this stuff. And I was like, well, I don't have any, but I was like, it was Trivium, it was some fast double bass stuff. It was, some pretty big metal stuff. I played in some pretty big shows, but I was like, let me find something online. There's got to be fan views or whatever it was. And at the time, the drummer who was in the band was actually a really, really big Trivium fan. So he had already knew who I was and he knew my work. So as soon as he was like, hey, this guy hit me up. He used to play in Trivium. He's down to do it. Lives 45 minutes away. They're like, yeah, absolutely. Let's go. So I didn't have to send any of the videos in or anything like that. It was convenient, 45 minutes away. I just drove the kit across and went and practiced. And I learned the songs maybe in like a week or something like that, which it wasn't really, anything crazy. And I started rehearsals with them pretty much right away. And then we went out on that CD release tour. So then I could tell that there were some differences. Matt's obviously the founder of the band. Lance has been in it since pretty much after the first tour. And I could tell that there was some tensions going on. And I said, hey, look, I could tell that something's weird between the drummer, the old singer. They're feeling some type of ways about this. They're not really invested. They didn't want to ever go out and do the post-show merch stuff. It was like, why do we got to do this? It was just a lot of things that they were taking for granted, what got them there in the first place, that love that they had. And I could tell something was weird. And I could tell that it was, pissing some people off who are actually putting in a lot of work for this, dedication and care about this thing. Matt, Lance. So it's like, I told those guys, I said, if things change, you let me know. I'm going to go back to teching. But I like this. I like this vibe. This is very much my cup of tea. I think that you guys are onto something. All of us coming together could really step this thing up. And so I think it was like October 2016, I was back to teching and they hit me up and they're like, hey, you still looking for a drumming spot? And I was like, yeah, I'll be down as long as the offer's right. And I wasn't really trying to go too far below where I was at. I was kind of being stubborn a little bit. But I told them, I was like, for you guys, I was like, I'd be down if it ever happened. And I was like, who's it for? And they're like, it's for us. And I was like, cool, count me in, I'm down. So I gave up the whole teching thing for a while. I went right back in 2017. We started working on the new record, the future record, which is what now we consider our first record of From Ashes to New. I know that there's EPs and there's Day One and things like that, but we feel like this lineup is the lineup that it was always supposed to be. So we're saying that we're about to be on our third record rather than our fourth record, because this is the lineup it always should have been. So we started working on the future record, and yeah, so it was literally from a Facebook thing. And it's crazy because Matt actually, I think, reached out to me, whether it was Facebook or Twitter. He ran everything. So he would send like, hey, check out this band. And I believe it was when he was starting it in 2014. And he put My Fight together. And he was like, check out this song. And it may have been 2013, the very end of 2013. And it was like very early on of everything, just one song. And he's reaching out. And I remember being on tour and seeing this person from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and be like, okay, cool. It's, just another guy trying to hit me up because I'm from the same area doing something. And then I had all these people reaching out to me like, hey man, can you promote my stuff? Can you do this? Can you get me in touch with these people? And I just kind of wrote it off. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I like never listened to it. And then the first time I heard it, I realized when I basically was auditioning or helping fill in, that I was like, we actually could have crossed paths and never did. And I actually should have heard this song way before. And so it was a joke for a while that Matt used to make fun of me. He's like, dude, he's like, you messed up. He's like, you could have just been the original drummer all along. He's like, but you just decided not to answer me. And then it was funny because Danny also did the same thing to Matt and I. When we found him off of YouTube, Matt reached out to him personally. He was like, hey man, I want to talk to you about some music stuff. And he was just like, yeah, whatever. He was kind of like fed up with his old band stuff that was going on. He was frustrated. And we had to reach out to a mutual friend that Matt had and be like, hey, can you tell him, like, we're trying to actually get a hold of him about something serious? And he was just like, oh shit. So he like came back and was like, yo, my bad. Like, I had no idea. So then we finally got in touch. So I did it to Matt, and then Danny did it to Matt as well. We were both like, yeah, whatever, dude. But for the Trivium stuff, the departure, I don't think that it was necessarily hard going from that into From Ashes when it all happened. The time in between was kind of hell for me mentally. I was 22 when I started playing for Trivium. I was 20 when I started touring. So my first tour ever, I was with IC Stars. I was a drum tech, and I just did it. I paid everything myself. Second tour, same thing. I maybe got buyouts, which was like $10 a day. So I used my own bank account to get on tours because I believed in myself enough to go, I'm going to make something of myself in this industry. And the second tour is when I met Trivium. They basically said, hey, this kid is just out here working and working and working, just doesn't stop. He's making no money. Why don't we take him? We're losing our drum tech. We don't really have to pay him that much. And we can bring him in, and slowly as he increases, his status in the, his spot, then we can continuously pay him more for what he's deserved. So I was like, sure. I went from sleeping on a couch and paying my way to making money and sleeping in a bus and getting my flights paid for. I was like, yes, I'm down. So I went from them to As I Dying and back to Trivium because we all know what happened with the As I Dying situation, or most of us do. So I went back to Trivium. And then shortly after is when they let go of Nick, and I was the drum tech. So after Carolina Rebellion, some stuff went down. We had a day off in Pittsburgh. They fired Nick in Pittsburgh around 4:00 in the afternoon. I get a call, hey, come to the tour manager's office, to a hotel room. The whole band's in there. I open the door and they're all just staring at me. And I'm just like, I know I didn't do anything wrong. But initially you're like, why am I in the principal's office? You know what I mean? So, but then in the back of my mind, I knew what happened the night before. And my intuition was like, are they about to ask me to like help fill in? But I was like, there's no way. And they asked me, they're like, how soon can you learn the set? I was like, maybe give me a day. And they're like, well, we need you to play tomorrow. So I hopped in, played the show, did that. And then that's when I was with them for a little while. Basically did 2 years. I did the Silence in the Snow record with them. And then we could just tell, they could tell that wasn't really my style. That wasn't my thing. I was not going to be the right drummer for them. And I don't think that style of music was going to be the right thing for me ultimately. So I think that a little bit, I talked about this on the X-Man podcast with Doc Coyle, that I think I kind of checked myself out a little bit. I went and said to myself, I'm going to use this to either make my own band that I love or dream of, or we're going to end up playing stadiums and I'm just going to be happy because we're at this big level, materialistic more than true happiness. And Obviously true happiness is always going to be better than materialistic items. And, we weren't playing stadiums. So I checked myself out and it showed. And, they let me go. There's some other things that I don't agree with, and they kind of rubbed me the wrong way with how it all went down at the end. But you know what? I'm in a much better spot now. This is way better for me and this is home. So yeah, when they let me go, I was back home and I got a phone call and it was just happened on a phone call. I will say this. I think that they should have done it in person at the last show when management was there and everything else. They could have definitely, stepped up to the plate and be like, hey, thank you for everything. We're just going to part ways. I would have respected that a lot more than waiting for me to get done a vacation with Pierce the Veil guys and Asley Dying guys and all that in West Palm Beach. Or was it, yeah, West Palm. It was somewhere in California. Did a boys trip and I got the phone call. I would have disrespected that a little bit more man to man. But it definitely messed with me. I'm sitting at home and I knew that something was wrong by the way that the email came in. We need to have a conference call at this time. And my gut was like, you're getting fired. So I was like, cool. So I took the call. Some things were said on there that I was like, that's not cool, but whatever, it is what it is. And I was just like, I was distraught for a little while. My whole career was basically based off of them. I was 22 when I started with them, or I'm sorry, I was 20 when I started with them, 22 when I started playing with them. And by the time I was done, I was 24, about to be 25, or maybe I just turned 25. I can't remember. And I was just like, where am I going to go? Like I was teching prior. I don't know what I'm going to have after this. I don't have a lot of connections. Can't go back to As I Dying because they're not doing much. I guessing I could ask other friends, but everybody kind of had their slots. And playing wise, I was like, I finally did it. I'm like, cool. And then I was like, where am I going to go to? Like, I have this thing behind me, but I didn't really have a reputation yet. I didn't have anything. So it was young mind and just kind of frantic. And then I think that everything happens for a reason. And I was supposed to see that post and I was supposed to not fully be in Trivium forever. And for them too, like who they have now, what they're doing, they're better than they've probably ever been, and that vibe that I've seen from afar is great. I've talked to all of them since, at what used to be called Rock on the Range, Sonic Temple now. And I went up to Matt, I've hugged him, I've hung out with Corey and talked to him at festivals that we've had together, so it's like we just realized like they're on their lane and I'm on mine, and then this is what was meant to be. But yeah, I went through that moment where I was stressed. I was like, what am I going to do with myself? Did I just lose everything I've worked for because of, not being fully in the right spot, the right time kind of thing? And but it all came around. I saw that post and joined From Ashes shortly after. And this is where I was supposed to be.